Mason Cosby, CEO and founder of Scrappy ABM. Thanks for joining.
Sam, super stoked to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Nice. So Mason, we're going to dive into some community questions in a second, but I don't often get the chance to interview founders, and you're currently going into year 2 or just crossed that mark at Scrappy ABM. Big congratulations. And
thank you.
So that's where I'm going to kind of start. Partly because I'm really curious. So like, how did you get started? What's it been like? But also part of the reason why I asked this question is the marketing landscape right now is pretty tough, especially for those senior marketers out there who are more experienced. I mean, a lot of teams are just hiring juniors to orchestrate their chat GPT prompts. But yeah, I always try and like genuinely encourage people, if they are in that limbo state, which is horrible to be in, maybe there's a chance to find some freelance work, to fill the void in between roles. I don't know if you can tackle it from that lens, but over to you. How did you get started? What made you kind of take the leap of faith?
Yeah, I mean, I when I launched Scrappy ABM, had already been talking about ABM publicly for probably 2.5 or 3 years at that point. And for quick context, like I had my daughter, so first kid, August of 2023. We launched the business in July of 2023, about 3 weeks before my daughter was born. So don't recommend that. But I wanted to create just the opportunity for my wife to be able to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was just looking to launch a little side hustle that was going to like do some supplemental income. I had a full-time day job. I enjoyed that day job. I had no intention of launching a business. And then in the next 6 weeks, we sold $300,000 worth of work. And I was like, got it. So like, I'm just going to go do this. Because I had essentially just been like running Scrappy ABM for free for 2.5 to 3 years. And then I said, essentially, hey, like, I'll actually like put my hands on a keyboard for a couple of you guys. And then a couple of people were like, please do. I'm going to be super clear. The $300K, someone ended up backing out. I lost $150,000 like after I started. So like, it's the immediate, like, founder roller coaster, which is so fun. But really from there, once I kind of recognized we can replace my day job, I stepped out of my day job 7 weeks after my daughter was born, like a complete psychopath. But it worked. So fast forward, we went from essentially $0 to $200,000 in monthly recurring revenue in about 18 months. And now we've got a team of 15. So as we are approaching that 2-year mark from when I founded the LLC, it's been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of work. It's been a ton of work. If you want to talk about that, I'm happy to tell you all that stuff, but that's how we got started.
I don't know what's more heroic, your delusional optimism or your wife supporting you throughout all of that after
my wife
having a baby. Yeah.
No, they're like
big credit.
So if we want to talk about that for a second, my wife, like 6 weeks postpartum, was a nurse, and we ended up getting a number of podcast clients. So I started to work 100 hours a week, and then my wife would work during nap times, 20 to 30 hours a week, editing podcasts. And I like trained her how to be a podcast editor. And we did that for 6 months. So, I mean, if you want to talk about truly heroics, like this business would not exist without the free work of my wife.
That's awesome. And we've now got it on recording as well. So you can also send this to her afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she knows. I thank her every day.
Oh, that's so lovely. And on that kind of like a lighter note there, you mentioned, and I know you're big on podcasting and like the benefits that it brings to businesses, and I can vouch for it too. It's like last week, well, I get offered jobs quite a lot because I think of like the network podcasting brings, and obviously I've been very fortunate enough to be introduced to a lot of people. But I guess that like the first kind of sort of takeaway, right? And it's probably worth doing it to build like your personal brand, even if you are in a company. And I think I really value your transparency there on, because a lot of people think, all right, just quit the job, we'll figure it out. I did that. Stupid mistake. Well, it's not a stupid mistake, but there's so much easier ways and smarter ways to kind of make that transition. And that 2 years worth of work that you've spent building up like your brand, your knowledge, and kind of a following to some extent so that they trust you is super, super crucial. So note to self, if there's one thing that you take away from this, everyone start interviewing and posting and building up your personal brand. Right, Mason, I've been a bit cheeky, as I did tell you before, and I've included a few more questions than usual, but that's because we've got the big dog on the show. So are you ready for challenge 1?
I might be. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. So challenge 1, it's not necessarily an easy start here. I came in from Alex Papas over at CyberArk, previously Venify. And he asked, what's been your best success in showing attribution and impact across your ABM strategies? So I guess, well, there's a lot of tension trying to prove attribution across the cycle. But yeah, take it away.
No, it's super easy. The best success has been 2 things. So one was just most specifically doing podcasting as a program, because you invite people onto a show. They didn't know you existed. They knew you existed. Afterwards, they're like, man, like this guy's not half bad. He like kind of knows some stuff. And then they typically ask you, can you help us? So when we run a show for ourselves, roughly every 10 interviews I do, we have like a 50% conversion rate to pipeline within the trailing 90 days from guests that either become pipeline themselves or make a referral. So like that attribution is relatively clear and simple. The other route is I'm just a super big fan of, like, people talk about like one-to-many versus one-to-one types of ABM. I think it's a continuum. At the awareness stage, you should be more one-to-many, but based on highly engaged accounts, you should become more one-to-one in nature. So I used to run a lot of webinar-based programs, and we would do broad to our accounts to get them engaged. If they showed up live for the webinar, we do giveaways that were like free consulting or free whatever, free breakdowns, free things along those lines. And I would just do it and then send it to people one-to-one. And the original version was called a fix your site. So I worked at a website agency. So we just do like live website breakdowns and then send one-to-one website reviews. It took me 60 hours. So I just sat in a room for 60 hours and I would do 40 website reviews in a week, send out 40. And then again, trailing 60 days, we'd have 8 new website customers, not pipeline, but like customers based on they watched the review. And it was like an hour per website of like content. It's like, shoot, like this, it was not scalable, super difficult, but it worked. So I did that every quarter. So when I look at attribution, I don't really look at attribution through the awareness lens. It's like more the awareness lens gets them engaged. And then based on their level of first party engagement, we should then be one-to-one personalized in how we try to convert them. And it's at that conversion stage that we then can show the attribution of an ABM program.
I'm off mute. Sorry, laptop overheating. Great answers. So I'm a big believer in that as well. The amount of kind of like drop off and no love shown after your prospects and target accounts have, you know, given you the benefit of the doubt, turned up to your webinar and thing. I think like, so what you're saying is like accelerating that one-to-one personalization as quick as possible as soon as they come through the door, basically, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, there's a conversion point and it's going to be different based on everyone's program. But at a certain point, they have shown up somewhere in a way that felt publicly accessible. And then you create a scenario where you say, for a limited number of people, we're going to do this extra benefit thing. Great. So they just think they're getting the extra benefit when the promotion was a target account program to a publicly accessible thing that anyone could sign up for. But we only put paid dollars behind our target account list. And then who gets those giveaways? It's all target accounts that are right fit accounts because that's in private. So you promote publicly, get a lot of people in. They're like, shoot, this feels like it was just for me, because it was. And then you do something that is truly just for them afterwards. So that's how I think about it.
That is superb. You're exposing all the secrets. I mean, I follow a very similar strategy, but it's good. We'll do it for the greater good of the masses. Challenge 2, ABM on a budget. So this came in from Gillian Condamudi, previously at Akamai. Need to catch up with her again. I'm not sure where she's at now. And she asked, what should, and I think this question is actually perfect for you and what you guys do at Scrappy ABM, but what should a solo ABM practitioner do with no budget? Where should they start and how should they do it?
So I'll give two variations of this answer. One will be super LinkedIn heavy, the other one won't be. So LinkedIn heavy approach, build a target account list and then do up to 100 to 200 connection requests on a weekly basis to directly your target accounts. You can do this manually like I did for the first 2 years, where on one screen you've got your target account list and on the other you've got LinkedIn. I do 30 minutes a day and I try to get through about 20 to 30 per day. What you can then do is, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Well, are you, I should stop coming on and off mute. Are you personalizing those connection request messages, or is it more of a case of just sending the invite, hoping they respond, and then following up with them afterwards?
I do blank connect requests because what I've seen is that the connection rate on a blank is higher than a templatized message. So the exception to this would be if you do have a super specific valid reason, like it was so great to meet you at this event, would love to stay connected. Like if it's actually personal, then you should send a note. If it's not, which what I'm recommending right now, admittedly, is not personal, don't send a note. You have a higher connection rate, because the goal here is to get them in your network so that then they see your content more likely. And then the other thing is, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn events, and you can actually connect, or you can invite your first degree connections to a LinkedIn event. Based on the LinkedIn event, you can create a registration form, and that registration form will then actually give you their data, their email, their title, their company, and it's LinkedIn provided data. So you get two things from that. One, it's a way to get casual consumers of content on LinkedIn engaged in a high value event or a webinar. And then you actually also capture their data. And then from a LinkedIn ads perspective, it is the best data for LinkedIn ads because LinkedIn provided data, which means you have a 100% match rate on your LinkedIn ad program. So if you want to go down to the person, this is the best way to get that data for free, because everything I just outlined is totally free right now. You can build a target account list using SalesNav also for free, in just native LinkedIn. Or if you want to go buy SalesNav, you can do that even more easily. From there, based on the event, as previously outlined, do a one-to-one follow-up that you throw up on a simple landing page. So you just clone a landing page, you record a video in Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, where you share your screen and you walk through a thing that's personalized to them. You upload that to YouTube as an unlisted video, and then you embed that on a landing page. All of that is free. And then you also use RB2B or Vector. Both of those are free website de-anonymization tools. And then you just see who hits your website. So because you put this on a landing page on your website, you can actually see who hits the page. Or if you want to use another free tool, you can look at this at an account level. You'll see more account level information, but you will know the person. But again, it's not a crazy jump. I sent this email with this page to this account, and then a day later, that account shows up on our website. Not a crazy jump to say it's probably this person. And then you follow up one-to-one and say, hey, wanted to see if there were any thoughts or feedback on the insights that I provided for your program. So LinkedIn Connections are your awareness program. The webinar is the initial engagement program. The follow-up is meaningful engagement. The website re-engagement component is then your MQA stage, where you know that they're aware of your brand, they understand the unique value that you could offer them, at which point you're not trying to get them booked into a meeting. And like, that's what I would do. If you want to add a couple of tools, I'd highly recommend Phantom Buster. It's $70 a month. And you can do LinkedIn live streaming with StreamYard, which should cost you also $70 a month. So if you needed additional tools, I think everybody typically has a website and CRM. Everything I just outlined is an extra $140 per month.
For unlimited value, basically. Well, it pays for itself very quickly. What are your views, Mason, on, I know what you mean about recording, where you've been doing this a long time, if you were doing it for like web design back in the day, but there are so many AI tools out there now where it's like scale your video outreach, and all it's really doing is like pulling up your website, and it's the rep saying the exact same thing again and again. Is it still worth it, in your opinion, to record those personalized videos one by one, or are you looking to like use AI to leverage that kind of like personalized outreach?
So I think of things typically in direct and indirect channels. So when I think about these personalized outreach approaches that are using the website scroller, that's typically more at the awareness or initial engagement stage where they haven't shown many levels of engagement with your brand. And what we're seeing is people are showing up in a direct channel with an unengaged account, at which point I see that that is overall less effective. So my preference is typically reaching out in generally more indirect channels to get them engaged with your brand, and then doing more personalized follow-up in direct channels like LinkedIn DMs, email, cold calls, at which point if they've already been significantly engaged with your brand, I don't want to send a website scroller that has the same script for everyone. They've engaged with the brand. Like, they've already shown some level of interest. We should personalize to the account based on their past engagement. So for me personally, it's not something that I've seen. I think the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then like halfway through, I was like, wait a sec. Like, and then it clicked. And maybe it's because I'm in the world and maybe that works on other people. But like, I think people are generally pretty smart. So if they see it more than 2 or 3 times, and like the scroll on the website has nothing to do with what they're actually talking about. So like it's not relevant. So that's my perspective on it. I don't think you should try to scale these things. I think you should try to actually do personalized things, which is unscalable, which is why it works.
I find it really hard just on that, what you just said. Um, Being a marketer or a salesperson, marketing to marketers, because they are generally more tech savvy, and it's like they know the tricks that you're playing. And I do question myself a lot that like I can skim up all these personalized landing pages now just like that. And I'm like, I want, if my mum got that, she'd be like, wow, this is incredible. Look, they've made a personal website for me. And it is difficult to gauge, like being in this echo chamber that we are in, what is effective and what's not. But I share also the same view. Like, I've never really taken to the whole scrolling website thing, because the risk you play, as you said, is if you kind of get found out, it's almost a bit like the whole sentiment is lost, and like that's whole,
Yeah.
you kind of like tarnished your brand. And it's kind of making me think, talking to you, really, AI in some degrees is making worse marketers. And I never, if I hire someone new, I never show them the AI tool straight away, even though that makes sense. Because I once did that with like cold. We're going on a tangent here, sorry, but like I once did
All
that when
good.
Apollo like came out, and I was showing this new rep. Here's how you can get data. And prior to that, I was manually finding email addresses, testing them with like Email Hunter, one by one, one by one. And the response I got, his name was Hanain, shout out Hanain, hope you're doing well. He was like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, well, you don't appreciate like what this is doing for you and how much time it's saving. And I think,
Yep.
yeah, like in a way, with ABM especially, the whole sentiment gets lost if everything is automated. That was my side tangent, but I think you answered Gillian's question perfectly. Challenge
Appreciate it.
3 came in from James Davis at Blue Yonder. So jump into another big company near here. He asked, what ABM technologies are you most excited about and why?
So, shameless plug. I run a company called Scrappy ABM that thinks technology second. So as I think about it, the technology I'm most excited about is the current tooling and technology that you have today to build out your current program, because you can start with a CRM and marketing automation platform. I know this is a sidestep answer, but if you go tech first, this is what I've seen often happens, is we look to the technology to tell us what we can do versus looking at a strategy that should inform what we need to do. And I think I just think the strategy first is the right approach. So here's how I tell you to think through the tech stack. Build out a program. If you want a template, shoot me a message. I'll send you the whole template. Think about at every stage of a program, how are we getting our data? How are we distributing to these accounts? Where are we sending them? And how are we tracking success? And as you map all of that out, you'll find gaps. And like prime example, how do we track engagement at the awareness stage? That's a super difficult challenge. And depending on your industry, depending on your company size and your existing technology, you may have some things on that front and you may need to go fill in some gaps. So then the technology that excites me most is, well, there's a specific problem, which is we can't track at the awareness stage. So then maybe you should go look at Hockey Stack or Dream Data or any of these other like attribution tools that support in difficult to track channels. Great. Like that's a technology I'm super excited about. Another one, maybe you don't even know who the right ICP is because you ask internal team members, you get a variety of wildly different answers. There's tools like Boost Ideal that will actually look at all of your current data, look at market trends and third-party in-market signals to develop a dynamic ICP that is the best customers to be going after right now. So there are those kinds of tools. Or maybe let's reference back to content. There's two approaches that you can use with AI content. You could use something like Tofu, which does create lots and lots of scalable content utilizing AI that's personalized to the account level. And I've seen the tool. I actually think it's pretty good as a way of getting out lots and lots of first drafts that then human in the loop type approach, you do some minor editing, but like you can make a lot of content that way. The other approach is using AI for content curation, which is where air traffic control would come in, where it actually looks at past engagement and then does personalized curated content based on your first party and third party content. So again, there are lots of tools that are available and all of them are actually pretty good, but they only are good if they solve a specific problem that you've already identified in your current program versus saying, I'm going to go buy the technology to tell me what I can do.
Mason, this is why people hire you 100%. I love it. I'm also thinking of starting a series. Well, I've started recording already, like $10 landing pages versus like $10,000 landing pages, $10 emails versus $10,000 emails. And really, in a lot of cases, the value isn't that much greater. The value is in the form of like details, but speed is what you're kind of like ultimately paying for. Anyway, I'll let you know how that keeps going.
I
But
love it.
good answer there. Challenge 4 came in. Well, it came in from two people really. You got Alex Bald at CMSP. I always struggle with that acronym. It's a terrible name. It's a huge company. I can never pronounce it. Sorry, Alex. And then Kyla Nuessa at MongoDB. So both big companies, and they asked the same thing. When prospects don't engage on email, LinkedIn, or other digital channels, what offline or unconventional channels, have you used to break through, and how effectively do they work?
Yeah. Great question. So you'll see a lot of people say things like direct mail, and like depending on who you ask, direct mail is like a godsend or like the dumpster fire that killed ABM at their company. Another one would be things like events or dinners. Again, godsend or dumpster fire.
Sorry, Mason, can you say more on that quickly? So, as in, like, they overspent, without naming names or something, but like,
Yeah.
just inefficient getting out, expensive.
We had a client that right before hiring us built out this whole campaign with a direct mail sender and spent like $100 to $200 per gift and sent out somewhere in the ballpark of 100 gifts. So like not super cheap. Plus they bought the technology, and this was for like a 1 month program. And they like, it's been 4 months and they haven't gotten a return. Now, what I want to be super clear on is I think their strategy was busted from the front end, aka they bought a technology to tell them what they could do. So they were like, direct mail might work. So then they bought a direct mail sending platform and then spent $20,000 on gifts in the first month. So they sunk 60 grand. And then we're like, well, before we spend any more money, let's see if this generates anything. And they sent gifts to people that didn't know who they were. Like, that's dumb. Whereas one of my favorite things that I've seen from someone like Will Aiken is he was super deep into a sales cycle. His main point of contact left the organization. It was passed to someone else. She didn't respond to anything. So he, after like 2 months of trying to re-break in, sent her a coconut with a note that just said, "You're a tough nut to crack." she thought it was funny. They hopped on a meeting the next week. So gifting, if done well and personal to the individual, doesn't have to be crazy expensive. Like, we're actually doing a direct mail send to all of our panelists that have joined some of our past webinar panels, and we're doing a co-branded custom postcard that's like artistically, it's a painting. I don't know why that took me a second, but yeah, we just had someone like paint postcards that are co-branded as a thank you, and like it costs $15, and it's not this crazy scalable thing. We just like know an artist locally, we get their address, and then they send them a postcard. So again, as I think through it, non-digital channels, if you do this in such a way that is, again, based on past engagement, and that's the big thing. You've tried email, you've tried LinkedIn, you've tried cold calling. And I also want to give context. You haven't just tried for like a month, but you've tried for like 6. And you didn't just go after the one person. You went after the entire decision committee and all the end users and all the influencers. Like when I was sat in a sales seat as a full funnel AE, there were certain people that I called for a year before I got the meeting. And then finally they took the meeting and were like, what are you selling that you feel so confident and passionate that you would call me for a year straight? Like, that level of commitment was enough to actually get the meeting. They're like, you've literally called me every 3 days for a year. Like, what are you selling? I'm just like interested to see the guy behind this level of commitment. I got the deals. So like, sorry, I'm unpacking a lot of things here. So like, first, have you actually given it enough time? And that's typically 3 to 6 months, in multi-threading the account. So doing account mapping to understand end users, influencers, and decision makers. And then we take a bottoms up approach. So we typically target an end user for 6 to 8 weeks and then move a layer up and then move a layer up. So that's a 6-month outbound program. That's the first thing. Second thing, if you've done all of that and you still can't break in, maybe it's also just a sign. Like, focus other places with accounts that are engaged. Because if you've done that much effort and they're still not engaged, they may just not need your product right now. Great. If you're still convinced they need your product right now, do non-scalable, simple direct mail, or cluster your accounts based on location and like go. And then just shoot a message over all these people and say, hey, I'm going to be in town because I'm visiting another client. Would love to pop in. And if you bring cookies, no one's ever upset. I've never had somebody be upset about bringing cookies. And if you do it in such a way that you can say, I'm already going to be in town, it's super low pressure. And if you don't get enough meetings to justify the trip, cancel the trip. But that is what we have seen works. And the last thing is, if you live in a city where there are other people that are your target accounts, AKA I live in Indianapolis, where there's actually quite a few target accounts that live here, just go host a dinner. It costs like $1,500 to get 40 decision makers in a room. I'm probably going to get a deal out of that. We're doing it in like 3 weeks. And if that works, great, go do it again. So just start with some of these things as ways of breaking in to these accounts. So I know that was a little bit all over the place, but hopefully we landed it well.
No, I think it was a really, really good question. It's a question that doesn't deserve like a 30-second response. Ultimately, it's very convoluted depending on the context of the client. I think, a lot of ABMers feel the heat, don't they? I mean, not physically. I'm physically feeling the heat. I'm like sweating up here during my biggest interview ever. But anyway, that from like their like leadership, we need results now, and they can feel that pressure. But I think you are right. It's like if you're trying to target execs, you're going to need at least 3 to 6 months before you can officially say that you give it a good go. One thing that we've done, and it works quite well, more for that like lower end, is just like running a survey, like a poll, and it seems really like basic. But if you attach like quite a decent sized gift or not individual gift, but like raffle prize, that gives you those like entry level insights for you to work up the funnel, which I'm sure you've done many times. Anyway, good. We're cracking on. Challenge 5 came in from Robert Morum at B2B Marketing. This man goes all over the world. Went for lunch with him recently. Very nice guy. He asked, what is the optimal split between ABM for existing customers versus new accounts? That's a phenomenal question that I really want to dive deep into. And then the second
Yeah.
part of his question is, based on your experience, how would you split one-to-one, one-to-few, and one-to-many? That sliding scale of personalization.
Yeah, such good questions. So on the new business versus expansion, depends on the organizational size and, for lack of a word, like what is the overall business strategy. So as a quick example, um, I worked previously in an agency that was 30 people. We were then a part of an agency roll up that rolled up, I think it was 7 agencies in like 6 months. So we almost focused no effort on new business because we suddenly had all this opportunity within each other's customer bases that were part of the roll up. And I know quite a few businesses at a certain size and scale prefer to buy than build. So if you're in a season where you are doing acquisitions and mergers, it makes a lot more sense to do expansion approaches because essentially you're selling in your new services into the existing customer bases of the two different businesses. So that's the first idea. Second is also just like looking at feasibly what do your customers need? I know this is such a basic answer, but I did a podcast interview with a CMO that actually cohorted out their accounts into 4 different stages. And there's a specific cohort in size where they're great customers. They'll stick around for a long time. They just have no more budget to expand. And they've looked at all their data to just say, we can focus on expansion opportunities in these other 3 cohorts, but this one, just like don't touch them, like make them successful, keep them around. But if you push too hard, we're actually going to churn customers. So it's also a helpful way to just think about that. And if you look at your current customer base through those lenses and you're like, we've expanded them, like they just now need more time to bake and like they need another year before they run into a new problem that we can expand them into. Okay, you should probably go focus on new business. So that would be my thought is it depends on, again, are you in an acquisition spree? Acquisition spree, I'd be pretty much very focused on expansion, and we can call that a 70-30 split. If you're in a single product business, like we're primarily single product, honestly, we have 2 service lines, but they don't even cross sell that well. I'm all new business pretty much all the time because our expansion is doing great work that keeps our customers around. Like that's the expansion effort. And then the last thought here is if you don't have an expansion opportunity, which there are actually tons of companies that like just don't. I've worked in a couple of companies where like it was only the upfront sale and that was it. It's a huge value add to then actually look at the NPS results to then understand the problems your customers are experiencing. And then you as a marketer can do market research to identify, hey, we aren't currently doing this for our customers, but we can either build something like this or even easier, we can go build out some referral partnerships and actually send other work and get referral fees back. So even if you don't have an expansion option, you may actually want to do time, energy, and effort on a partner-based program that functions as an expansion effort. And then that's an easy way to trial it. If you see a bunch of customers end up going to one of your competitors, or not competitors, but your partners, build it or buy the competitor or buy the partner and then just fold them into your services. So that's my overall thought process. I know that wasn't a direct percentage split, but it just depends on growth stage and what is actually happening that are external factors to just like the room that meets to talk about expansion versus new business.
No, it's good. So I think when, especially people new to ABM, they always assume new ABM is. I certainly did when I started, like for new business, and not many people look towards customer marketing. And I just interviewed Madhav, and I was with him for a while. So he's the CMO of Storylane, and I went to product marketing conference with him. And the stand next to him was Seismic. The CMO of Seismic was there, huge company, and it was just talking. Madhav was talking to him, and it turns out I think Storylane have like twice as many customers as Seismic do, but like obviously Seismic are crushing their revenue numbers, and like it clicked for Madhav. Then it's like, wait, why are we still trying to catch like new customers when there's clearly all this opportunity here to expand? And I think ABM often doesn't get applied enough or get enough credit when focused on customer marketing. The last part of Robert's question, Mason, was one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many. Again, that depends. But to me, it's all one thing, really. It's just a sliding scale. But yeah.
So 2 quick thoughts. One, if you want to run an ABM pilot program and you can get away with it, run them on your customers because you have the best data and the best channels on your current customer base. Mm-hmm. So I actually love pilot programs there or in pipeline. Those are my 2 favorite starting points. As far as the one-to-one, one-to-many, one-to-few, if you actually go look at our content, I almost never talk about this because I actually don't think it matters. I think it is largely based on the size. So this is just a simple LTV to CAC analysis. So we talked with somebody on Monday. They exclusively sell to companies like DoorDash and Uber. So they're going to do one-to-one because literally by the market size, there's like 100 companies they can sell to total. So like, why would you do anything else besides one-to-one? Whereas for me, we made a target account list that's 2,000 accounts that I want to have a meeting with in the next 5 years. So I am currently running one-to-many towards all 2,000, primarily just to like make sure they know we exist, because I know that typically brand recall takes 3 to 6 months from when they've encountered a brand on a couple of occasions. So like I'm heavy in brand building for the payoff that will happen 3 years from now. So from my perspective, one-to-many makes a lot of sense. And then we go one-to-one when an account has showed up like 5 times at a webinar, or they open up every single email from us that's a newsletter email and they actually click through and listen to the content, or we keep having return visitors to our website, or we keep having people look at the pricing page on our website, or they look at the schedule. Like those levels of engagement get one-on-one attention. But because of our market size, and like quick side note, that 2,000 account list was segmented out of a larger market that's like 100,000 companies. So as I think about it, my one-to-many program could engage hundreds of thousands of people, but I don't really think that's ABM. So like I'm focused on one-to-many ABM programs for these named accounts. So I would just think about it in that way. What is the actual market size and what is the actual payoff based on the acquisition cost? And if it makes sense to go one-to-one, you will have a higher conversion rate than one-to-many and a faster time horizon. But is that investment worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Mm-hmm. Well, your 2,000 target accounts don't stand a chance because you're always on my LinkedIn feed. So I have no doubt they know about you already.
I'm trying.
Well, yeah, if you need me to plug you guys, well, actually, no, I'm talking to you before you get too famous for me, and then I'll be trying to get through and you won't be picking up. Right, we've only got a bit of time left, so we have to do quick fire. But challenge 6 came in from Kelly Shomahon at Pegasystems. Great company. She asked, can you share a detailed success story? I mean, you've done this throughout, but can you share a detailed success story, including the challenges you faced and how were they overcome? Obviously, with relevance to an ABM campaign, preferably a recent one, if possible.
Yeah. This is one we ran about a year ago. I'll give 2 actually. So first, we had a client that digitized SOPs for the manufacturing space. And one of the constant objections that they got was a lack of integrations. Well, they went on a pretty big integration spree. And what they ended up being able to do is say, we now have these integrations that were past objections. So we built a dedicated landing page that was to the integration. So this one was most specifically an integration with SAP. And then what we did is we mapped out all of the content based on the objections that former SAP prospects had. And what we did is on the landing page, walk through all the benefits of the integration and why they should now work with this client. And the bottom, we had an FAQ section. And the FAQ section was solely objections that sales had previously experienced. And then what we also did in the FAQ section is linked out to deeper dive content. And then the other thing that we did is on that deeper dive content, we actually created smart CTAs using HubSpot that created a journey flow based on the different list segmentations that we created, so that if they happen to find that content out in the wild through search or SEO, they would land on that page. And then based on the persona and their levels of engagement at that time, they would get a different CTA So we actually created this interconnected content. So if they land on the landing page first, they got pitched out to deep dive FAQ content that would answer their past objections or their current objections. And if they happen to find that other content first, it then guided them through the natural set of questions that they would typically ask and land them on that final page that booked a meeting. So we did that. And within about 3 months, we generated 3 million in pipeline. And then they already went ahead and closed in 4 months, 11% of it, but then the company got bought. So I don't know what the full impact would have been, but in 4 months, we generated $300,000 in sales. So not too shabby. That was that one. And then the other one is we had a client where we did a webinar program. In the first webinar, we helped them expand Costco. So they already had Costco. And then through that webinar program, they went from like a region and then got nationwide. And then they did a webinar with Costco on the impact of the nationwide rollout. And then that generated $10 million in pipeline. So not like sometimes you just use your current customers and say, hey, this customer did this thing with us and it went super, super well. And then everyone that wants to be like that customer is like, well, I want to do that. And then you just have them do the rollout. So it's actually that I'm trying to do more of in the future is a lot more customer-based content that is more detailed breakdowns. That it's not me telling people what our customers did, but as our customers talking about the success that they had.
That's awesome. So the first one you played the ultimate Uno reverso card on them, which is superb. And then, you see it at a lot of conferences now as well, don't you? It's like the joint panel customer content. So instead of you going up pitching your services, the customer basically does it for you. Awesome. So Kelly, there you go. Challenge 7, out of home, came in from director Mike English. So I interviewed him recently. He's from London Lights. Shout out London Lights. He asked, what has been your favorite billboard campaign? If you have one. Or actually, he also asked, if you don't have one, what would you put on a billboard across London? But we can also put, let's say, Times Square.
So here would be my overall thought on this one. One, you guys should go listen to the show Beyond the Billboard, which is hosted by the guys over at One Screen. My favorite campaign is some of the things that they've run where they can actually map based on reverse IP lookups where target accounts live, like their actual home. And then they map routes from home to their offices and then actually make sure that there are billboards. And these are live digital billboards. So it's a fraction of the cost of like a just always on billboard. But you can actually just like map where your target accounts are and live and where they're headed to ensure that from a spend perspective, you are getting in front of these right people. It's like that'd be that alone. And the fact that that technology exists is wild. So I highly recommend checking out onescreen.ai for more stuff like that. And then for me, on the billboard front, if I had a billboard that I could share, it wouldn't drive me any business in the front end, but it sure would send a message that's like, stop looking for a silver bullet for ABM. Just start with what you have today, like Scrappy ABM, and then just learn more. Go to scrappyabm.com/plan. And then they'd get our templates and join some of our workshops. It's like, that's pretty much it. There's no silver bullets, just a lot of hard work. And I promise it works.
I think that's good. I was at an event recently and Katie, my friend Katie, she was like, oh yeah, we don't do ABM well. And I was like, that you could almost flip that to use your Uno Reverso card. It's like, here's where you come to do ABM well. And it's amazing how many companies don't really do struggle with it. So yeah, I guess simple messages probably work well. Right, 6 minutes. Challenge 8 came in from Mike Davies at Red Hat. So he asked, what is one sacred cow in B2B marketing that needs to be slaughtered, and why haven't you done it yet? I guess it's a bit different for you. I guess like a better frame is like for the majority of your clients, what are you killing?
Their delusions on their ICP. Like this is, so here's the exercise we do with almost all of our clients. It's one that I recommend. Putting your ICP into your CRM right now, like all the filtering criteria that you've got, and then add one additional filtering criteria. customer. If your current ICP does not reflect your current customer base, is it really your ICP? Like it's not. It literally stands for ideal customer profile. So if your ICP does not reflect many, if any, of your current customers, you probably don't have a realistic ICP.
That's pretty simple, actually, now you say it out loud. A good way of vetting if you're on the right track from the offset. There you go, Mike. So challenge 9, final question, came in from Chris Hare, ABMA. I think Vincent DeCastro's agency, account-based marketing agency. Chris asked, what do you think that the top 3 channels will be in 18 months' time for ABM?
I still think events is going to be kind of killing it, but I don't think it's any of our current events. I think we've seen people like RevFest that was hosted by Go Nimbly. It was a first year event, totally killed, and it was actually focused on like the people that were there versus the sponsors. So I think we're actually going to see a lot more events. And like for quick context, I am very much so flirting with the idea of like hosting an in-person ABM event for like 150 people, because I just think there's gaps there that is purely value led and content led. So I think events. The other one that is not often talked about, I think from an ABM perspective, would be SME driven communities. So having your leader that is associated to the business unit that you typically sell into actually involved in communities where your buyers are has been a massive revenue driver for us, because I just hang out in some of these communities and answer people's questions. And then they're like, oh, like this guy's been answering my questions for 6 months and he runs a business that does this thing. Like it's just the easiest way to build trust. And the last thing that like I personally think would be massively helpful is going to be courses. I am seeing a lot more people go into developing free courses that are more valuable than some of these paid courses. And as a result of that level of value that teaches and breaks a lot of beliefs and helps people understand how to actually do something differently, and you can just give it away for free, essentially you've built so much brand value and reciprocity that as a result, people are more likely to go with you. So if you think about those things together, communities, how you like build a little name for yourself, you get invited to go speak at events and hang out at events. And then your CTA is, hey, go check out my free course. It's totally free. It's a deep dive. And then based on course engagement, you can actually do a conversion. And I actually think those are the 3 channels and how I'd use them together.
Yeah, and then also, if you pass the course, you get welcome to Mason's event or dinners coming up. I don't know, it could be a nice reward. Right, Mason, that's superb. You've been incredible. Thank you for overrunning slightly. The last and final thing I will ask you is, do you have a question for our next guest?
What would be your $200 a month ABM tech stack?
There we go. My man. I love those types of questions. All right, I'll get that asked. I'll ask a few people for sure. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, Mason.
Thank you.